Welcome to the Cornerstone Talk podcast. My name is Billy Filmo. I'm your host. Today's guest, we have Martin Raldo Martinez, Anya Carbonell, and returning guest is Professor Darnell Mohan Aludafade and Laquan Johnson. So today's podcast is part two to PTSD in the hood. So I wanted to act this on my last podcast, but kind of like didn't have enough time. So the first question to start off is, what is the importance of having a positive role model?
Mm. Yeah, the importance. I guess I'll just chime in really quickly. Um, um, it's imperative. You understand? Like, because it's like having a positive role model actually, see, this is what people fail to realize. Role models shouldn't be mimicked because this is what happens. Once you see somebody that you kind of like their style, like the career path they take, you seem to mimic them. And then after you get to your journey, you tend to realize like, I really like their style, I like their career path, but I would do this way. You understand? And it's not it's not like you're giving them a black eye, because that's what the role model serves as, a model. You understand? A model, no one can be replicated, first and foremost. You understand? But a role model is basically a tool. It's a guide. That's like me having a GPS. The GPS might tell me where to go, but I might know a shortcut. Okay. And if I know the shortcut to my destination, I should definitely utilize that. So a role model is imperative because it shows you, what could be, and it shows you, what this journey could be like. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have the role model, it's like you're walking into this situation blinded without your blind man stick, so to speak.
To me, what a mentor, a role model does is that it helps you reach your goals without as many bumps and bruises.
Mm-hmm.
Like it helps you. For me, the mentors that I've come across, and Laquan said some things where it's like I saw some people that I'm like, I like where your career is. You resemble me, right? We look similar. For me, a Latino in certain positions is like, all right, cool. That's where I want to guide myself to. But I've also met those same mentors that once I connected with them and built, like you said, I would do things differently, right?
Right.
I would add my little spice to it, my Martin's little different flavor. And I think that's what's beautiful of it, right? Because iron sharpens iron. So like that lets you be yourself, but at the same time, not have to go through so many loops, or get as many bumps and bruises, because this mentor role model could help you. Like, hey, listen, I know you know this path, but if you talk to Billy, if you talk to Quan, you talk to Dr. Danelle and Anya, I can help you, guide you this way. I can help you get over here a little quicker. And I think that's why it's very important to have those people around you. And I think it's also important to build those genuine relationships where they can sit there and tell you like, that's not a good move,
That's right.
or what you did was like that. I like what you did, but if you would have tweaked this, it could have hit a little different. If you wouldn't have said these specific words, my mentor used to always do after presentations. After I was done, I'd be like, how you did? He did like, you did great, but you had 30 ums in your presentation. Work on it.
Right.
Okay, got it. And it's always just to help you get better. And like I said, without as many bumps and bruises.
Yeah, to add on, like what Martin and Laquan are saying, it's like I feel like it makes your aspirations a little bit more concrete. Like Laquan said, it's like if you're at it alone, you can be walking in blind without like any kind of like aid. But a role model would kind of just like also help with your sense of self, I think, because you're like looking at a person like, hey, I can be this too at some point. And it's just, yeah, the importance of a role model is just like having a person there that kind of like can like pull you out, especially if you're from like a disadvantaged community or like a family situation that isn't really stable. It's like it can really help, especially if you know your role model. Like if it's someone personal in your life, it's like they can definitely also kind of open doors and opportunities for you as well. So yeah.
It's important to have a role model. I've had role models throughout my whole life on the job, way before I became a professor or even knew I was going to become one. A lot of my lecturers even in the university setting, were two in particular were role models to me, and they didn't even realize it, that they were role models. You understand what I mean? But it was just the fact that they could encourage me, not necessarily just be talking to me, but it was the actions. I was watching them teach and do all sorts of things with us as students. And I thought, gee, if I could only reach that level somewhere along the line in my education. I've been a role model to a few students, especially many years ago when I first started teaching. And I had a student walk in one day into my office because I did administration jobs and also taught in the university. And he walked into my office and he just said, "Miss D, I want to be like you." And I'm like, "Excuse me? You're a man. I'm a female. What are we talking about?" He said, no. What I mean is that I want to sort of follow your path in what you do. And I said, oh, okay. And so immediately I just directly hooked him up with somebody that could get him into the master's degree program.
Right.
And like 2 years later, he walks into my office dressed up in this beautiful suit. And he gives me this big hug, and I'm like, okay, so what's happening? And he says, I just got my master's. I'm like, you're kidding me. And he's like, no, I'm not. I told you I wanted to do what you do. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and he said to me, he said, my mom pointed it out to me that you were my role model. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And he said, between you and my mother, I'm where I am today. And I'm like, bless you. Thank you so much for letting me know that you've improved in your life. You know, and I was a little part of it. He said, oh no, you're a big part of it. You convinced me I could do this.
That's right.
Okay. So yeah, it means a lot. It really means a lot to have a role model in our lives. And sometimes it's your mother, your father, a teacher, like I said, you understand what I mean? Or just a stranger, period, who you admire what they do.
Right.
I think it's good to have multiple role models too, right?
That's right.
Like how you said,
very good point, Martin.
I could look at my father and be like, that's how I want to be when I'm a father, and you know, decisions he makes as a man. But then I could look at, you know, a dean of students or director at the CEO at a job and be like, that's where I want to be as a professional going forward. And I think you all prove a good point, and we all agree with it, right? Like it's very important.
Yeah. You know what? And to piggyback off what Martin just said, like a part B to my answer, I want the viewers to understand role models do not only come in positive fashions. Listen to what I just said. Role models do not only come in positive shape, forms, and fashions. The neighborhoods you grow up in, you know what I mean? You're going to see a lot of people that aren't doing the good things in life, that aren't good people. These people are also role models. You know what I'm saying? They're showing you what not to do. Okay, so I want our young people to understand, look for that positive role model, but also pay attention to the people that are not on the right path. Okay, they are also role models. They're teaching you what not to do, how you don't want to live your life, who you do not want to be. Okay, so they also serve as role models, okay, to deter you from failure, right?
Sure.
So last podcast we referred to kids and PTSD in the hood and how we wish they could like move to different settings. So Quan pointed out suburbia. So kind of like this theory of if they move into suburbia that they will have better opportunities and better chances. So I just wanted to read a few articles that kind of like got me upset in the week.
You said they got you upset?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It was good anger. Good anger. There's nothing wrong with it.
An Arkansas teacher accused of making a 5-year-old student clean feces out of a toilet with hands.
Oh my God.
Ashley Morris said on Tuesday that her 5-year-old told her about the incident over the weekend. His teacher at Crystal Hill Elementary School reportedly told him to clean out the toilet with his hands because he used too much toilet paper. Murray said she was shocked when he told her, and it was obviously bothered her son. Another one, y'all might have heard about this one. A black kid was bullied by white kids and forced to drink urine at a sleepover.
Oh man.
And just maybe was it a day or two ago, they just reopened the Kendrick Johnson case where he was found roped up in a gym mat with his organs taken out that they ruled suicidal and accidental. So we believe if we move out of the hood into different environments, it will be better. But as you can see, these youth who are very young are facing adversaries. So I want to get your opinions on some of the things that's happening.
I think now we're just hearing about it, but it's been going on for way too long.
Absolutely.
I think us in these roles, and like Billy, even with you with these podcasts, like these are strong tools to kind of help us learn our value and respect ourselves and understand that just because somebody who you think is authoritative over you, right? Like you can't really do much about the 5-year-old, right? He's doing what the teacher's telling him. He doesn't know no better. But the kids are at the sleepover. Unfortunately, those are situations that I feel like happen a lot more than what we talk about. And we have to be able to teach ourselves, teach our peers, teach our young ones, and educate each other that those things doesn't matter who's around, even if it is your peers, right? Because it could have been a sleepover with a bunch of just friends of color, and you just happen to be the runt in the group that people just want to pick on, right? Like
that's true.
It's just being able to be like, I'm not doing that. No, I'm calling my mom. I'm calling my dad. I'm removing myself from this space because I could sit here and try to act like I'm cool or try to act tough and all this, but it's just not beneficial, right? And sometimes I feel like we tell ourselves you have to be tough in situations. We tell ourselves that can't talk about it, right? Because that's snitching. But we need to be able to show where that line is of where there's a difference in that.
I mean, no situation. I'm sorry, Anya, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just gonna say that there is some truth to the idea that if you're depending on where you are, like a lot more opportunities can be afforded to you because if you do live in suburbia, you're more likely to live around more, I guess, like socioeconomically like wealthier people, I guess. So, but that kind of only exists when you're not an other, like you have to conform to what they are. So if you're already there, but you're other, you don't look like them, you don't share the same culture as they do, you won't necessarily succeed. And that's kind of like the hard part about it. It's just that existing in the system that we exist in now isn't like, no matter what kind of regulation is put in place, no matter what kind of laws are developed, it's kind of like covering the symptoms of a bigger problem. It's not solving the problem itself. So like personally, I don't really see an end to stuff like that, to injustices like those, unless we we have to essentially dismantle the foundation of America. Like I don't think that America existing as it is now is like just like the fact that systemic racism, the institutions that exist with systemic racism, capitalism too, like all of that stuff kind of needs to go. Like there is no reforming a system that's working the way that it is. Like it's working the way that it should be. Like it was developed to work that way. So
man, I mean, hearing those two stories right there, I mean, especially the one with the 5-year-old, I mean, as I alluded to during the last podcast, the first part, Billy, it first starts with self-esteem, and it starts with the trauma that we all, as Native Black and Native Latinas and Latinos, have endured from being raised in this capitalistic society. You understand? We are taught from young that, you know what, we got to move out the hood and we should move to suburbia. You know what I'm saying? We should move with the picket fence. You know what I'm saying? We should, huh? Excuse me?
The American dream, right?
The American dream, right? That's right, the American dream. We should go away to college, you know what I'm saying? We are taught that this makes us better, you understand? And, me being, approaching, I'm a middle-aged man now, you know what I'm saying? Me understanding thyself and understanding the, overstanding the hypocrisy of that American dream. This is what happens when the parent doesn't understand the hypocrisy, because I'm saying with the kid that drank the urine, man, I'm like, wow, how was he even able to get in this predicament to even befriend this young man? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Did they go to school together? Are the parents friends? How? I'm quite sure, I'm gonna assume that a glimpse of racism was bestowed upon this young man before he drank that urine, but he wasn't taught to identify it. You understand? Because he probably was taught that, hey, Little Richie's a good guy. He comes from a good neighborhood. He comes from a good household. You know what I mean? He's not a threat. When in fact, Little Richie is probably the biggest threat. You understand? You know what I mean? When I moved from the ghetto per se to the neighborhood that I live in presently right now, me myself, I not blatant discrimination, you know what I mean? But when they seen the sweatpants and the bucket hat and the t-shirt, it's one way. When they see me going out as the counselor to the university with the suit and tie, there's another, I feel another vibe. You understand? So I really feel from that standpoint when, when I first, when I was out here with the moving truck, moving my stuff in, they didn't know who me and my family was, you know what I mean? We just was that Black family that moved in the hood. You understand? We're the only Black family that actually lives in that neighborhood, might I add. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know what to get from me. So, and that was the summertime. So when September came around, I started wearing the suit and ties, going to the university, I seen the change. You know what I'm saying? A reaction, you know what I mean, from these people. You understand? So I'm saying to myself, wow, that tells me how you looked at me when you first met me, when I had the sweatpants and the bucket hat on. You know what I mean? Is suburbia the place to be? You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say the hood is the place to be, but I'm not going to say suburbia is much better. You know what I mean?
I think that just proves the point right there. It doesn't matter where you at, where you started. It's, it's your mindset. And,
that's right.
And what have you been taught, or what research you've done in yourself to learn what's right and what's wrong and what's your value?
That's right. What's your value? Right? Well put. What's your value, man?
So I want to finish off the news article.
Sure.
So the white classmates actually filmed a video.
Oh man.
It said Humphrey, which is a child, can be seen being forced to drink a yellow substance at a sleepover as a white classmate giggled and teased him. Humphrey's mother, Summer Smith, believed the drink contained urine and said her son was shot with a BB gun and called racial slurs during the nightmare slumber party. So not only did they terrorize him, they recorded him. So when does this stop? We want to move out the hood because we tired of the killing in our neighborhoods. We tired of the lack of education and the poverty, and then we go into suburbia, and then you're getting harassed and bullied by counterparts, white classmates. So what's the next step? Where do we go, and what can we do?
I mean, it stops when we create our own communities. Just to chime real quick, I'm gonna hand it off to Professor D. But I just want you guys to understand, do you see the overt form of racism that exemplifies? Not only did he drink pee, they knew that they were powerful enough to record it. You understand? That was taught from the household, that we're here, he's here. I don't care if you put it on tape. You understand? Now, a person, a native Black or native Latino person, they would have been afraid to do that. When we commit crimes, we don't put it on tape. Why? Because we know when we get caught where we going. You understand? But that when you have been taught overt racism, even if I get caught, nothing's gonna happen to me. You understand? That's taught from the household. But like, just to finish it off, it stops when we create our own communities and we create a sense of collectivism. You know what I mean? And just to be honest with you, you know what? And we segregate to a certain point. You know what I mean? I mean, we have to. You know what I'm saying? We actually have to take the same tools and the same ideologies and lessons that they teach their children and teach ours. Now, we're not anti-white. We're just pro-black, meaning we come first, okay? We have to come first, okay? I have to love me, Billy, before I can love you. You understand? If I don't love me, there's no way I can love you. It's impossible. Have to love me first. And it goes the same way with our own communities. We have to take care of our own communities first. If we don't do that, what does it mean that I moved to suburbia? You know what I'm saying? It means nothing. I have to love me and mine first, man, before I can even venture off to, you know, another destination.
Well, in that case that you're talking about, Billy, the mother says she's not going anywhere. She is not moving anywhere. She moved there for a purpose, and the purpose were the schools. Okay. The schools are much better than where she's coming from. She wants her child to have an education. So she said straight up, she doesn't care. She will take them to court. She will do what she needs to do legally, but she's letting them know she's not moving anywhere. She is going to remain right where she is. Can you blame her? She's put in a lot of money.
That's true.
To make the change.
Right.
She knows she's making the change in the right direction, which is regarding her child's education.
Right.
She's not going to let these people punk her child and herself, because she feels as though if she backs out and turns around and runs, then that just means, oh, we can always do this, you know, from this other sick, sorry child's point of view.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not going to let you terrorize my kid. So I'm staying right where I am, and we're going to see together how this will work out. Stand your ground.
Stand your ground.
Yep. So now I kind of like want to enter the college atmosphere. So only very few that come from hoods kind of like survive the hood, because some die or some just doesn't go to college. But the very few that go to college and still have that memory of the hood, the PTSD. What are some challenges some of these kids from the hood are going to face while going away to college?
That Professor D, I'll hand that one over to you. For real. I'll piggyback on you from that one.
I mean, we see it, we faculty, it's not for us really to sit down and start to pinpoint our students. You understand what I mean? And figure out like if they're really coming out of the hood or not. Because right. You got to be careful in doing something like that. Okay.
Right.
You can't look at a Hispanic student or a Black student and say, oh, they're from this, that, or the other, because I don't know personally, and I'm not allowed to get into too much of into the system to read more or less how did you get into the university. All right. That's out of order. I mean, I would not want to deal with any faculty member who does that. But I'll tell you one thing. I myself did something that was totally outrageous with a Black student I had the first time I started teaching African American history at Glendale Community College in Glendale, Arizona. This kid would come to class every single day with no writing utensil, no notebook, didn't even have the textbook for the first 4 weeks. And he would just sit there and listen to me talk, you know, do things on the board and whatever. And I kept saying to myself, can he read? You know, I'm asking this question of this Black child in my class, and the majority of the students are Black. And I'm saying, can he read? Can he write? To myself, but I didn't know how to approach him straight up and just say to him, excuse me, Charles, do you know how to read? That's rude. That's crude. I cannot do that to a student.
Right.
When we had a presentation, a group presentation, boom, he gets up. Not only can he read, He has this beautiful diction, the whole works. And I'm standing in the corner of the classroom saying to myself, well, I am so happy I did not brand this young man as coming from any particular underprivileged, under whatever,
Right.
not being educated student, because
Right.
he was.
Right.
You get what I'm saying here?
Right.
You got to be careful with that, Billy. In other words, there are those of you who are coming out of the so-called hood that are brilliant.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is for me as a faculty member to do is to harness that brilliance into letting you go further in your degree program and actually graduate with the certification, the degree, and if not, even go into a master's program. You get what I'm saying here? So it's a case that some students show that they're from the hood. They'll tell me straight up they're from the hood, and that these are the problems that they're having. I'm supposed to get onto it and help them be successful, because that to me is the most important fact. And I tell my students all the time, as you know, Billy, you've taken 2 of my courses, straight up. I'm not only here to give you this knowledge, but I'm here to make sure that you graduate with this knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it's going to uplift your life forever. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that goes into it too, where either ourselves or the student put a label on themselves because they come from the hood. They're not, either they feel like, I know from my experience at Bridgeport and you know, Eastern Connecticut State and just even the community college, like it's like you have to carry that on your back or on your shoulder and let everybody know where you're from. And sometimes, you know, I would have to sit students down and just be like, hey, you're not there anymore. Like as much as that's part of you, I understand that. Nobody's telling you to change your beliefs. Nobody's telling you to change how you move, but you do need to alter it. You're not, nobody on your way to grab food. Not that it's impossible, but on the way to grab food, it's very unlikely you're gonna get mugged on campus the way you would get mugged if you went in the hood to go grab some food. And I think that's what a lot of, from my experience, with a lot of students that come from the hood face when they go to college, that they just don't know. I know for me, when I started, it was my whole life growing up, while I was going to school, it was like, just get to college, get to college, get to college, right? You know, represent the family, move your culture, move your people, show that you could do it. Great, cool. Got the acceptance letter, got my ride up, got my room and board. Family leaves, I'm in that room by myself. Like, now what? Like, I know I'm supposed to go to class. I know I'm supposed to study, but there's a lot of in-between stuff that we just don't know. And it's not really broken down. And so you revert to what you know. And sometimes we bring that to the wrong space, right? Like, if a professor is putting you on spot or asking you a specific question, you feel like they're trying to play you. So now you gotta, I don't know who you talking to. I'm not like that. And it's like, you gotta remember your environment and your setting and understand that that's not always the case. But at the same time, I feel like it's also very important for universities and colleges to put the people that have come from that environment and been successful in those leadership roles to affect and make the changes needed so that that student does feel connected. So that you could read what that student's body language is, understand where he's coming from, and be able to translate the information for their ears. I know I you know, me and Billy chat a lot about that, where it's, they're just telling you in a different way, where we need to translate it for you to understand, like, this is how you get to that question. This is how you get that answer. This is how you find out who is the person on campus that you could go to, who's the connect, right? Like who on campus you could go to when you would get jammed up, that's going to make sure everything's okay, and how do you approach them, how you articulate yourself to them. And if I didn't have that experience, how am I going to help you with yours? So I think it falls a lot on the leadership at universities and colleges to put other people in those roles and give them the reins to create something. And it's not always going to happen in the first semester. It's not always going to be great the first year. You know, I
Mhm.
always think about it like in the NFL or NBA, where these coaches, like, you're going to give me a bad team and then you want me to turn them into the playoffs or into the championship. One
Right,
seed,
almost impossible.
right? You're setting me up, right?
Yep.
So
Right.
I think it's also important for the leadership to give you that time and give you that support. And resources are limited all across the board in every aspect, but still give me something. You know, me and Billy have worked on projects and programs that cost $50, but it affected so much more than if I didn't have that opportunity. And I think that's just a big thing that a lot of students face, that they just come to college, don't necessarily know how to navigate, so they revert to what they know, and then the people that they're supposed to go ask are not people that know how to translate the information for them to process and understand how to move going forward.
Mhm.
For me,
mean-
oh, I'm so sorry.
No, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Who's gonna speak?
Excuse me. Not yeah, Yana.
Okay. So for me, I think it was just the intense alienation I felt going into school. I already going in, I already understood that this wasn't gonna be like the Bronx. This wasn't gonna be like New York. Like, I kind of try to beat that into my head, but it still didn't prepare me for what I was gonna deal with. And even from the community that I thought I was supposed to belong here, I go to Boston University. I'm in Boston right now. So even the community that I thought I was supposed to belong to or be with, the similarities were really just oh, we all speak Spanish and that's it. I tried to join essentially the Latin Student Union or whatever, we call it Alianza Latina. And bro, I just realized, I was there is really no way I can relate to any of the people here. Because even going into college and you find people that are from your ethnic background, they're usually richer than you. They didn't experience the same things you experienced growing up. They're not even I feel like the term Latino can kind of be a lie, because yeah, I'm Dominican and this person is Mexican. Yeah, we're Latino, but the similarities are there. I don't relate with a Mexican person or an Argentinian person or what other countries are there? A Chilean person. I don't relate to any of them at all. And Alianza Latina was an organization that's mainly just mainland South American, Latin American people. There were no Caribbeans there. There's a big difference between mainland Latin Americans and Latin Americans from the Caribbean. I really had to learn how to separate that, and I had to distance myself from them so much because of just also there was no diversity. There was no kind of, all the things that they did, I felt were extremely performative. They had this shirt that, because obviously if you're from Latin America, you can be any race, you can be Asian, you can be Black, you can be white, you can be any mix of the three. They all had those shirts that was oh, Latinidad is and it's different shades of skin color. Meanwhile, most of them were white. And it's just just the performativity of it all, realizing that just because you're like me doesn't really necessarily mean that I'm going to find community within you. So going into college, being where I'm from, I definitely felt like I needed to try really hard to find my community and feel like I belong. So yeah, it was that. It was also feeling really stupid in class because of how inaccessible, Martin touched on this a little bit, just how inaccessible the language is in a classroom sometimes from professors. It's you really could have explained that whole topic in 10 words or less. It didn't need to be this whole all this academic jargon. At some point I thought that it made me feel really stupid. I felt really dumb. I felt like I wasn't absorbing anything properly, but it was just that the language was inaccessible. So dealing with those feelings, it was really hard. I really didn't want to be here for maybe 2 years. It's just now where I'm finally finding my place here. And oh my God, another thing, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Having to unload your trauma constantly just to get help. So irritating. I constantly professors, especially now, I feel like they're being extremely a good portion of them, I think, are being really unforgiving especially in a time like this. I spent last semester at home. Home is not the best place. Like it was not the most conducive environment for me to learn.
Right.
Professors were just not getting that. And I had to sit down and be like, bro, like I'm suffering and I have to like unload all these things just for them to understand. And that's like another big thing. I shouldn't have to be unloading my trauma just to get help. I shouldn't have to be telling you my life story just to get help here. So, yeah.
Touche, Ayana. I you know what, that point that you made about joining the group, and I mean, first and foremost, when our Native Black people and our Latino people go away to the universities, they experience culture shock. Period. It's culture shock. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say, think about our fraternities and our sororities. You understand? Think about what you got to endure to be accepted by a fraternity or sorority. You understand? You know what I mean? Is it not like joining a gang? It's the same thing. Think about what I got to do to say, hey, now I have a clique. You know what I'm saying? Now I have a group of people that I can run to, or I that I'm amongst, that I can identify with. When in my opinion, it's just simply not the truth. You know what I'm saying? So I come from the hood, right, where they tell me to not join gangs per se. And then I go to college, and now, you know what I mean, I see the frats. They're the coolest guys. You know what I mean? They have the prettiest girls. They have the hottest parties. Now that's where I want to be. Is that not like the Crips and the Bloods? Is that not like the Latin Kings? They the people that in the hood, they have it all. These are the people that have it all. They have the power, they have the respect, they have the money. So now I go to the college setting, and now these are the people. They just have a tie on, and they have a do-rag on. Same people. Okay, it's the same. It's the same thing. So I say that to say, you know, when I was coming up in the hood, I had a few guys that was few years older than me, and they went away to college. You know what I'm saying? They weren't gangster guys. You know, they did the regular stuff. They stood on the corner, they drank a little bit, they smoked a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. And they said they were going away to college, and we were like, "Oh, really? You going away to college?" You know, we were proud of them. Yeah. You know, both of them came back in a month. Both of them, they came back in a month. And and you know what? And I'm quite sure, knowing what I know now, I'm quite sure that they probably didn't even know the reason why, but I know the reason was not their fault. They felt like a fish out of water when they got there. You understand? And like Martin said, they felt like they had to put up a bravado when they were challenged. You know what I'm saying? When they were effectively challenged. See, that's what I'm saying. When you grow up in the hood and you try to go mainstream, so to speak, you don't know the difference between effectively challenged and disrespected.
Right.
You understand? You think they're synonymous, and they are not. No. You understand? And you haven't been taught to identify, you know, the difference between the two. You know what I mean? And so if a Black or Latino, in this world, in this day and time, if you do not know how to differentiate between the difference between those two things, you're not going to make it. Period. I don't care what industry, what field you're in. If you don't know who's effectively challenging you as opposed to who's disrespecting you, because you want to know something, 9 times out of 10, if you know that, you're going to side with the guy or the woman that is disrespecting you. You know what I mean? And he might be your boss or your manager. You're going to side with him. You don't want to know why? Because you're going to say, oh, he's in a position of power. I have to bow down. I have to pay my bills, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? And you know what's going to happen? Your kids are going to repeat that same cycle. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, trauma in a nutshell. You know what I mean? You know, you have to, and like Ayana said about the having to unload your trauma just to get some type of love, man. That's actually what she was saying. I have to unload my trauma for you to actually give me your shoulder to lean on, or actually for you to give me a break, man. Basically, I have to jump through hoops, man. It's meritorious manumission. You know what I'm saying? I have to jump through hoops. I have to become a buffoon. You know what I'm saying? I have to become your understudy for you to act like you love me. That's not love, man. It's not love. You know what I mean? So if it's not taught in the household, like Martin said, if it's not taught there, once you get out here in this real world, man, you're not going to know how to identify with it in no shape, form, or fashion.
And to piggyback a little bit of that and what Anya said with I have to unload all this, a lot of the times, what I see from my white peers is like like I'm helping this, like, look, I'm helping one of y'all, you know what I mean? Look, I'm helping. And it's like,
Right.
we're not a charity case, you know,
Right.
or we don't, or like, now you can't, like, that's not your one good deed of the day. Cause you should have
Right.
acted regardless. If somebody's telling you, yo, home is not a best place, you shouldn't ask why, right? But us, usually people of color, we mind your business, right? Like, I appreciate what you tell me, but sometimes other folk don't understand that. So when you're sitting there saying, because I felt the same thing, where I could go home and do work, but it's not going to be as good. It's going to be so much harder to do. I'm going to be up probably later because I got to wait for everything to kind of cool down, so then I could work on it, to then be tired, and then I'm dozing off in class, and now you're telling me I'm wasting time, or I'm not applying my. How am I supposed to come to class on Wednesday now, excited? And I think like I said, it goes back to tools like what Billy's doing with this podcast, letting some people, getting people from all different walks of life to understand that if you don't, like, love is love, you know what I mean? Like, help is help, and nobody has a harder time than anybody else, because hard is hard, you know? So it's just like, are you here to help, or are you not? And I think a lot of people in roles, we start off in our careers with the right intentions, and then over time we kind of start forgetting why we're here. And now it's like, I just need to get through the day, I want to go home. And it's like, then you need to sit back and reevaluate yourself and figure out your why. You know, one of my boys, Mike Asburn, always speaks that, like, what is your why? Why are you doing this? Why do you help?
That's right.
And if you don't got that answer, then you're just not going to be as effective or as productive as you think you'll be.
Right.
I like the point that Anya brought up concerning the disrespect. I particularly come from the way back when we were not calling people Latina, Latino, and all of that.
Right.
Living in the Southwest, which I did for quite a number of years in my life, because I was born in New York, but raised in Los Angeles. We weren't allowed to be calling people that, you understand what I mean? You were either Mexican, you were Puerto Rican, you were Cuban. We knew the differences.
Right.
It's kind of demeaning as far as I am concerned. I mean, I have
agree.
Also faculty peer who are even to a certain extent a little older than me or even younger than me, who are less always bring that to my attention, that why is it white administrators can't see the difference? You know, is it something inherent? And I tell them it is somewhat of an inherent racist attitude, and they refuse to catch on. As far as they're concerned, everybody should be lumped together, depending on what they feel you look like or how you sound. I remembered when I was the advisor to the Black Students Union at Arizona State University, which is my alma mater. One time, myself and another member of the administration, we got into a fight, but it wasn't a bad fight. It was just that she passed a comment to me that really got on my last nerve. She said to me, I don't understand why the African Student Union and the African American Student Union, they're not getting along. And I said, excuse me? She said, well, they're Black. I said, excuse me? You know, and she was like, and she's, you know, she still didn't get it when I said the second excuse me. So I said to her, I said, hold on. No, they can't get along to any great of an extent. Africans are Africans. African Americans are a totally different group of people. Totally different culture. And she looked at me and I said, for you to even say that to me, you know, I'm married to an African. I mean, come on. We have cultural differences that we clash because of how we were raised and the fact that I don't speak his language fluently. You understand what I mean? And he had to learn English as a second language. That is a clash right there. I said, you got to understand people are different in so many respects.
That's right.
And that's what you poor students are facing. You're facing lecturers who, as far as they're concerned, because you're Ronaldo Martinez and Carbonell, oh, the two of you are definitely together.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me? Have you asked them anything about their personal background? In other words, who are you? I used to answer that question when I used to teach the principles of ethnic studies, because Dr. Pulido, who was my teacher, my professor, he did that one evening. He asked us all in the classroom, what was our background? And when I started to speak, and I said, well, I have grandparents who are from Barbados and St. Eustatius, the Dutch West Indies and the British West Indies. And then I'm married to an African. And then, you know, my father's people, well, they're from Canada and the US. And I mean, the man looked at me and everybody in the classroom looked at me like, Jesus Christ, we just thought you were plain all African American. Well, yeah, I am. But I have all of this other stuff in the background. And
Mm-hmm.
most of us are like that
Yep.
in this country. We
Yep.
have all of these other ethnic connections. And we're having to fight. You young people now are having to fight the situation because everybody to look at you and just lump you in a group and you should be okay. Anya, the reason why they're asking you, I mean, I'm glad you told them straight up. Look, I have to tell you my personal business to such an extent for you to
Right.
get a hint as to the difficulties I'm having. I like you because you're pointing it out to them, whether they like to hear it or not. And
Right.
this is something you have to continue to do in order for change to come about.
Yep.
Because we have white lecturers and white administrators in this society who are refusing, and they see where people of color are more and more in the university and college systems than ever before. And they have to come out of that mode. They have to come out of that mode in order to address your situations. Because I'll be honest, as a faculty member, I am not supposed to sit back and just let you fail.
Right.
I see something is wrong or you are at risk in some
Right.
way, form, or fashion. I don't care what the situation is, COVID-19 or whatever.
Right.
If I know
Right.
that all of a sudden your grades are going down or something is missing, I need to be contacting you direct and saying what's
Right.
going on. You don't have to tell me that, you know, oh, this, that, and the other. And no, what you need to tell me is straight up, the conditions that I'm studying in is not conducive.
Yep.
Somebody needs to, I need some time to put in a particular assignment. I have a student, she was supposed to turn in her midterm just the other day. She sent me a text, an email and said to me, I am so sorry. And I'm like, look, when you finish, send it to me, please. That's
Right.
all.
Right. Right.
I know her life is tough. She's
Right.
a nurse. She's studying nursing. She's supposed to graduate. She's doing nothing but midterms in the same week that I'm asking for my test. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't think I have a right. If I want to see her pass my course,
Right.
I cannot pressure her any more than what she's being pressured at the moment, racking her brains out every night, talking about, my God, I've got all of this to do. I know we all were students. All of us professors were students.
Mm-hmm.
We went through the same thing. We won't admit it, but we went through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's only fair to you yourselves. When you fall into that situation, you have to be very straightforward and say, this isn't a matter of me, how many people are in my house, and the fact that I have constant chatter and music all night long or anything like that. You just tell them straight up, because I'm not on campus, because I'm having to do so many other classwork, please, I'm just letting you know why I'm going to be late or the problem that I'm having specifically. I need guidance on this particular assignment.
Right.
Finish. They either give it to you, and if they don't, report it to the dean.
That's right. That's right.
Report it to the dean. No professor wants to be reported to the dean by a student. Trust me.
That's right.
The fact, because when the dean calls you in, okay, then the dean is going to look you straight into your eye and say to you as the professor, what happened here? What are you going to do about this to clear this matter up? This student is paying to come to this university, this college.
That's right. Yep. And I think students tend to
can't just
forget
fail.
that. They tend to forget that, Professor D. I reiterate that every day to my students that I counsel. Remember, you are paying for this. This is not a handout. And don't allow the professor to make you believe that they're doing you some great service by teaching you, because you're paying to be here. Okay? It's a relationship right here.
Without you, we have no salary. Without
That's
you,
right.
we have no job.
That's right.
It's as simple as ABC.
That's right.
I mean, it's a fact.
It's crazy,
So
man.
you go to, and the dean hates it when a number of students starts to come or send in emails and stuff like that, or I need to see you, sir, or ma'am, because of such and such and such. We as professors, we don't like to get a message to please come and see the dean over a student. We don't like it.
Yep.
They don't care if we don't like it, because the dean has to step in quick. Yep. So you do what you can. And as you said, when you are struggling, you are supposed to receive help. It's as simple as ABC.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. With being here, I really needed to shed like my timid exterior. All of that needed to go out the window. I needed to be like, even I'm here on a need-based scholarship, but I have that mentality in my brain, like, I'm paying to be here. I deserve to get the utmost, like, like I deserve to get the most out of this experience. So a lot of my friends would tell me to do this. Like at the beginning, I was like, no, like I don't want to start any problems. But immediately, if there's like a problem with a professor, like let me CC the dean. Let's see what he's gonna see then. Like it's just like, yeah, the fact, and also just the fact that needs to happen. The fact that you need to be tough in a different way. Because yeah, there is like, oh, when you're being challenged, when you feel like you're being challenged by a teacher, you kind of need to let that go. But like tough as in like, you kind of need to be like white people. You kind of need to be like, hey, this is like, I'm paying to be here. Like, why am I not getting the best service out of this? And I'm paying like $75K to be here. Like,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for us to understand that, right? Because like I know for me, I can speak for myself.
But you are like white people.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, come on, you are like white people. You applied to the university or the college. They like Martin said, you get your paper and it says, you've been accepted in your letter and you're happy. So, they got the same kind of letter as you do because it's the same thing, just different names. But you are like them. This is where we break that whole psyche. This is where we break the whole psyche. If you even have a lecturer, a faculty member who you feel as though is deliberately pegging you down in your coursework, you have a talk with them quietly as to exactly what this is about. They can either say to you, well, if you do such and such mentoring, or we have sort of a remedial class on this, they can't even bother to suggest how you can bring your grade up. That's when you are definitely going to be speaking to somebody else that is over them. Okay. They're not there to fail you.
Oh,
it's as simple as ABC. There are courses that you will go into for the first week and you say to yourself, oh no, this is not for me. You withdraw from that class and you go to something else, which is great.
Right.
But you know that there's a course that you have to take. It's part of your core requirements of your degree program.
Right.
And you're in it and you're trying your best, but you realize that, hold on, this person, this particular lecturer is not paying attention really to what I'm trying to do here. And you're failing. You don't wait until after the midterm to go and talk to somebody. No, you need to be in with your academic advisor as quickly as possible. And if the academic advisor can't seem to get a grip, that's when you tell the academic advisor, okay, well, it seems like I have to go to the dean of the department, finish.
Yep.
And everybody gets reported.
Yep.
And I think that goes back to what we think, right? Because it's like, I got to be happy that I'm here. I should be appreciative that I'm just in the room.
That's crazy.
I gotta be happy that I got a job. And it's like, no, you got your voice, and you gotta be able to utilize that. But it goes back to your role model and your mentor, right? Like if that's not somebody who's telling you, nah, you could do that. You could ask for that. No, you're supposed to CC. Like this semester, well, we do quarterly here, but this quarter, one of my RAs was like, I don't really understand what CC and BCC is for on an email. And I broke it down, and basically the same thing. Like, that's how people that's a tool that you could utilize to get things done.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, now I know, right? And but you can't, you're not gonna know if you don't ask. And also, like I said, at the same time, we're groomed to, again, don't complain too much. You should be happy you're here. And then B, if you do complain and you do bring it up to somebody, you're being a snitch, you're making the job difficult, you're being hard, because we all have stories of our parents or loved ones that we know are doing their job, but then somebody went and put the manager into something and it made it harder for them. And we're like, I don't want to be that person. But we gotta be able to be able to identify, nah, you're affecting me in being successful. And if you're a roadblock in that, I need to do what I need to do to get you out the way, because you're not about to stop me from being who I'm striving to be. And if I'm paying $75K, best believe you gotta move.
Absolutely. I mean, like Professor D said,
that's not peanuts.
It's not. We like you said, as professors and as staff members, as counselors, we actually were students before. Understand? So we know exactly where they're coming from. When most of us we're enduring our own trauma as staff members and employees that we have to learn how to navigate. I remember being in an institution where, when we had a gripe with something, they would straight up tell us, take that up with your counselor, alluding to the fact that we had a mental health issue because we had a gripe in the institution. How think about that. You tell me straight up, I'm a staff member that says I have a gripe, like a student should be able to tell a professor. I tell the higher up, whoever the power that be, I have a gripe, and they look me in my face and tell me, take that up with your counselor. Woo! How blatant is that? Telling me to hell with it. You understand? You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's a system that, like Anya said, that has to be broken. It has to be broken in some shape, form, or fashion. But it starts with us. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think that we can. It's been too many years and too long that we've been going to these powers that be. We have to create our own power, man. You understand? We have to become the powers that be in our own institutions, in our own communities. Because going to those powers that be, it's not working anymore in the 21st century, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
So kind of like going into my next question. So I go to University of Pittsburgh, which you can say is kind of like a diversity like school. My first time stepping on the campus, I was going into the residence hall because we did an overnight stay. And the first person I met was Malik, and he had on a New York Knicks hat. So right there, we already had something in common. I'm like, you a Knicks fan? I'm a Knicks fan too. And we kind of like became friends. And he's from Brooklyn, I'm from Bronx, so we already had that connect. So we kind of like knew each other's lifestyle in a sense. And my school is full of New Yorkers, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, even Long Island. So as I grew into it, I realized that it kind of like feel like home at a sense. But if I went to a predominantly white institution, I wouldn't have felt the same. I would have felt like an outcast or whatever. So my question is, how do you help uh, students transition into college? So how do you help kids that come from the hood, or even students in general? How do you help them make an easy transition? Because sometimes it isn't.
When you say you say you mean us personally, or like just in general, what you think a university and college could do to do that?
Um, both. How can you as a person in general?
I mean, from a personal standpoint, I mean,
Yeah.
how I would help someone transition from, you know, the hood into a college or university setting is basically by telling my story. You understand? Basically, you know, I'm a firm advocate as a counselor of self-disclosure. You know what I mean? Because, you know, and I'm quite sure that you guys can agree with me that when these students walk into our classrooms, our office, you know, they look at us, they put us on this pedestal, which they should to a certain extent. However, they don't understand that we were young at one time. We did face the same atrocities that they did in the hood one time. Like you said, Professor D, we were students. So actually verbalizing this, you know what I mean? That not too long ago, Mr. Johnson sat on the other side of the table. You understand? Letting them know, you know what I mean? Humanizing the position of a counselor and a professor. Because like we all said, sometimes, you know, the students get it twisted, like the professors are unapproachable or the counselors are unapproachable. You know what I mean? So it's your duty as the professor and the counselor to make yourself approachable. You know what I mean? You know, basically what you're doing, you're becoming as vulnerable as you want them to be with you. You understand what I just said? You're making them as vulnerable as you want them to be with you. You're making yourself vulnerable. So because if a student sees me being vulnerable, it's gonna increase the likeliness that they can be just as vulnerable with me. You understand? So basically sharing my story on, you know, on a personal level, I think that's how I can help, you know, bridge this gap. You know what I'm saying? That they're definitely going to face when they come from the hood to college.
100%. I agree with that 100%. I think that's what I like to do is I like, you know, I bring them in. I tend to look for the knuckleheads. I like working with them. I tend to bring them to the office and like, hey, let me talk to you real quick and just hear them out. Where you from? Oh, okay. And if I know something from that area, like for example, when I was working in Bridgeport, if you was from anywhere in Connecticut, I'm from Connecticut. I'm from New Haven, so I knew what you was talking about and what areas. If you was from Jersey, I got family out there. I could connect with you out there. New York, same thing. So
right.
I try to find a way to connect with you to make it seem like I'm not here just trying to do my job. I'm not crossing something out of my to-do list of talking to students. It's
right.
I see something that I could help you with. And I think it's very important to be like, oh, I went through similar things, or when a student's going through something tough, they mention it, but like, oh, I understand that. I might not have gone exactly what you went through,
right.
but I have an understanding of where you are right now. And
right.
and you got, I think it's very important to thank them for letting you in, right? Like
that's right. Absolutely.
Expressing that to me, this is what we could do to move forward. This is how we need to navigate this space. Because then now, what you said, it makes it more comfortable, makes it more realistic. Well, now when they have multiple issues or multiple questions, they know I could always go to Martin. I could always go to Mr. Johnson, Ms. D, you know, anybody, Anya, being there. Like, for example, even with your example, as a student, it's very powerful to connect with your peers, or peers look to you because you're in your third year. Now you have multiple first year or second year students that you could identify, like the way you're moving, the way you're speaking. I used to move like that. I used to talk like that. This is what I did to get more comfortable. And now you're helping them, instead of having to wait to their third year, they're in the second and first year getting that role. So then now they're just like, okay, now I understand the game we playing. It's not chess, it is checkers. Or no, okay, so we playing basketball, but not the basketball, you know, like 21, right? The game 21 in basketball. There's variations of how you play it. Some people bring the ball back, some people you could go right up. But if I don't explain to you how these rules are, you're not gonna ask me how to play. You're gonna come play in your world, and then you're gonna end up getting a lot more, I keep saying, bumps and bruises than it's necessary.
True.
Yeah.
I remembered many years ago, we had a young African-American female student at Arizona State University, and she belonged to the Black Student Union. And that was the first time that she and I actually got together. And I was talking to her about her future. You know, what did she want to do after she graduated with her BA or BSc? And she said she wanted to do law. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. You know, I actually administer the LSAT to students on Saturdays sometimes, you know what I mean? And we got to talking, and she had this attitude that was really, I don't know how, oh, okay, Martin, thank you so much. That really got to me, that it was like you couldn't really sort of give her advice. She didn't want to take any advice at all. Or she wasn't receptive to mentoring, you know, if you get what I mean. And so I pulled back a little bit from her because I didn't want to embarrass her. But what happened is that something else came up, and she went to Professor Quadras, who I happen to know, but Professor Quadras was way ahead of me as far as already being in the faculty. You understand what I mean? And she sort of showed that same kind of attitude, you know, stubbornness, that you couldn't get through to her no matter how you spoke to her, no matter what you brought up. She was just difficult to get along with, this particular student. And Professor Quadras and I, we were pulling our hair out because we were saying, you know, she wasn't getting along with her other peers. She was getting along with her other teachers. And we were like, what is with this kid? You know, who's going to help her? You know, we'd sent her to an academic advisor, and she didn't even want to hear what they had to say. And eventually, it took one of her own student peers, like Martin said, brought her to the side and said to her, okay, you're a sophomore, all right? This is how you need to sort of like accept things. You know, if you're upset about stuff, this is how you need to go about it. You can't just tick off everybody that you meet, including, you know, Miss D, the whole works. You can't do that and expect to succeed.
Right.
You know, and eventually she got it. I mean, before she graduated, she had enough student peers coming at her quietly, pulling her to the side, helping her, because she was brilliant. I mean, she was really very bright academically. You know, that same student 6 months ago, she saw me on LinkedIn and she asked me to give her a reference. And I had to rack my brains. And then it clicked, you know, who she was.
Right.
And I thought, oh my gosh. So I said to her, okay, just send me your up-to-date resume. I mean, I already knew what her academic abilities were and stuff like that, you know, but it was just, it was the fact that she had grown into a person that finally understood how to deal, as you said, Laquan, with the problems that the world was bringing onto her.
Right.
And she's become a mentor herself. She went into the military. I didn't even know that. She did, so, you know, and that breaks you down going into the military. And I mean, she learned so much. She has her own business now. The whole thing was just fantastic. And I thought, thank you, Lord. You know, I mean, students don't realize we as advisors or faculty, we worry about certain students. We really do. We do, because when we know that you're capable, we know that you're capable academically to do this, and then you start having all sorts of other factors come into play, it shakes us, it rattles us, because we remembered when we had all those crazy factors coming into play and how we had to manage them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you're at what, Boston University? Okay. They should have programs at BU that, I mean, that would help you manage your time and all sorts of other factors. You understand what I mean? I don't understand what's going on anymore with many of the universities. I don't even know if we have it at UB. Billy, do you people take like University 101? In other words, a course that introduces you into the system? How does the university system really work? You got to think about it.
We have first year seminar.
First year seminar, we do too. Yeah.
That's
That's about it. It doesn't really introduce you to the university, but kind of like gives you an insight, I guess, in a sense. I wouldn't know how to fully explain it. But when I took first year seminar with Professor Jill, I learned a lot. Kind of like learning about like workforce environment, public speaking, resumes, all that type of stuff. So that was kind of beneficial in the college world. So I can say maybe.
They need to keep this type of stuff up. They really need to perhaps do some tweaking with that particular type of course. You understand what I mean? And listen a bit more to what the students themselves are coming in with, some of their problems, some of their questions. As my mother always used to tell me, asking questions shows a sign of intelligence. Because once you ask a question, somebody's got to answer you.
Yeah.
Okay. You start people to think. Once you start asking questions, even in the class, about what is being taught, someone has to answer you. And you put the faculty member on the spot when you ask questions. You're not trying to be rude, but if something he's saying or she's saying isn't sinking in, or you just can't understand where they're coming from with this, hello, excuse me, but
Is there anything else to say?
I hope Anya got a lot out of this tonight.
Yes.
And like she said, she just has to speak up and speak out at times when you really feel as though it is necessary, because this is your life.
That's right.
This is your education. This is your future.
No, yeah, I did. It made me like, I feel way more validated in my feelings. Like, it's different when you're hearing it from like a professor and a person that's like in a position to help others. So oh, yeah. So thank you, Laquan, and thank you, Professor. I'm sorry.
Welcome.
Just Professor, or what was
yeah, just call me Professor D.
That's a D. Yep.
Yep.
So, as the Cornerstone Talk podcast come to an end, like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. This podcast is coming to an end. I have 3 should be coming soon. I got some funny podcasts on the way, sports podcasts. I'm trying to broaden the Cornerstone Talk podcast. So stay tuned, and we out.
It used to feel so devastating. At times I thought we